this now is a longtime critic of this nuclear deal. Senator Armed Services Committee member and former U.S. Army captain, Senator Tom Cotton from the great state of Arkansas. Senator, what is going on with this renewed attempt to revive this old Iranian nuclear deal?
Well, Trey, you tied the dots together there pretty well. The failed Iran nuclear deal is closely related to Russia's war on Ukraine. As you said, for the last year, Joe Biden has been essentially relying on Vladimir Putin to be his lawyer at these negotiations, trying to deliver through Vladimir Putin a new nuclear agreement with Iran, which would be much worse than even the terrible deal Barack Obama got in 2015. It would allow Iran to be a threshold nuclear state while giving them hundreds of billions of dollars to continue their reign of terror throughout the Middle East, such as, for instance, shooting ballistic missiles at Erbil, one of the largest cities in northern Iraq, in addition to what they also do, like shooting missiles through their proxies at major cities in the United Arab Emirates or bases where Americans have soldiers, or even trying to assassinate former Trump administration officials on the streets of the United States. Perhaps Joe Biden should stop negotiating with the world's worst state sponsor of terrorism and start holding it accountable.
What I can't get my head around, Senator, is even if they struck a deal with Iran, and God knows they are trying to do so, but even if they did, how would you ever rely on them to uphold their end of the bargain? I mean, how would you check it, and why would you trust Iran?
Well, that was the failure in 2015 with Barack Obama's deal. It put Iran on the path to being a nuclear power. It didn't even impose many obligations on them. But, Trey, this deal would be even worse. I think Joe Biden feels that he can trust Iran to keep its end of the bargain because it doesn't really even have any responsibilities under what we've been hearing. Not only would they be allowed to become a threshold nuclear state, but President Biden's even talking about lifting sanctions against things like the Quds Force and the Revolutionary Guard Corps, the shock troops of the Iranian regime, that are totally unrelated to their nuclear program. They face sanctions because of their support for terrorism, their human rights abuses. So I guess Joe Biden's plan is that the Ayatollahs will uphold their commitments when their commitments are essentially zero.
All right, Senator, you served in uniform, and thank you for your service. There's reporting that the Pentagon wanted to train Ukrainian fighters late last year, and the State Department said no. Are you familiar with that reporting, and why in the world would the State Department counter the Pentagon when Putin is massing at the border?
Well, I have no reason to doubt that, Trey, and it would be consistent with what President Biden did over the last year. Again, he always conciliated and appeased Vladimir Putin from the very beginning. Some of that was related to the nuclear deal with Iran. Some of it was just President Biden's natural dovishness towards Russia going back 50 years. As you heard Robert O'Brien earlier say, we gave them an extension of a nuclear arms control treaty with no strings attached whatsoever. We let them continue building that gas pipeline, Nord Stream 2, underneath the Baltic Sea. We rewarded the last buildup on Ukraine's border with a fancy summit in Europe. And at the same time, we were denying Ukraine what it needed to prepare to defend itself from this invasion, like anti-aircraft missiles, which President Biden thought would be too provocative, or apparently providing more American trainers in December to help train the Ukrainian army on those missiles and on other tactics. Again, the logic behind those decisions is President Biden thought it would provoke Russia to invade Ukraine. How foolish does it look in retrospect?
Yeah, Senator, that's what I'm struggling with. I mean, they are bombing children's hospitals and maternity wards, and we are worried about escalating their hostilities. I mean, I don't know what else you can do beyond bombing maternity wards and children's hospitals. But as I said, thank you for your service to our country. My best to Anna, and look forward to having you back on.
Thank you, Trey.